Hello everybody and welcome to the list video here with me and Daniel from Quick Learner. Today we're going to be talking about 5 game changers from the Drowned City, which you actually literally just picked up, which is kind of cool.
I'm so excited. It's all game changer right now because I got a new game.
Exactly. I'm hoping that I get mine soon, which would be nice because Eric and I want to record Hemlock and Eric's deck has Drowned City cards in it. I think mine does too. And also just to get new cards to play with. While I've played with some of them digitally, I try to wait to at least play with the investigators when I get the physical game, because it's just a bit more fun. And then hopefully this means that we won't be that long until the campaign. Maybe in April we'll be able to get that and start doing that as well. But we're here to talk about game changers. So the idea of what a game changer is changes from person to person. I'll share what mine is, then I'll throw it to you to share what your idea of a game changer is. And for me, a game changer is a card that is going to impact the collection more than other cards. I don't necessarily think it's going to be as hyperbolic as changing the game, so it's like literally going to be a new game after this, but rather that the card is really good, really efficient, or just like one of those things that you're going to see this in decks going forward, or alternatively is going to allow more exploration in the card pool that wasn't there before.
Yes, for me, I kind of took it a little more literally, but more on the play style, more on like what can I do when playing the game differently than I could do before. So these cards, at least the ones that I chose, feel like I can make some different kinds of choices in not just building the deck, but what I'm doing in game.
As well, I think that it's fun to do these prediction videos because then in a year we can look back and see how right we were. Because I know Dare BK also does it on his website. He had released at the start. He predicts like what the game changers for the cycle are going to be. And it's a very fun thing to do. So why don't we dive in and get this started with your number 5. There's in no particular order. They're like listed 5 to 1, but they're all kind of just the same. But your first one on this list is
Memories of Another Life. Okay, again, going back to what I just said about it changes the way that you play the game. What can be more different than letting you just pull a card out of your binder or box or whatever you have and playing that card, even if it didn't start in your plan for that deck in the first place. Just being able to play a card, any level 0 card at no cost is incredibly cool. I haven't played with the card yet, but it just feels like this changes what I can do. It's just like this whole, instead of a side deck, right? It's like the whole binder is your side deck.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know if I have much more to say about that. Do you have any?
So yeah, I think this card is actually is going to be very powerful because it's floor, and it's pretty a good floor because it already exists, and we know the card is good is all in, right? This card's floor is just all in. You use it to then play Thorough Inquiry to draw 5 cards. And that's like a really good no thinking. If I just need value, like that's just a really good way of doing that. But then it can be anything else, right? Like it could also be Bank Job, which is just 8 resources. Like that's also like a pretty good effect. But also just the fact, like the true power of this card is that it is exactly what you need when you need it, right? So this card actually isn't anything until the moment you decide to commit it to the test, and it is what you need. So let's say, for example, you're being chased by enemies and you need to like blow some guys up on the location behind you. This card is now a Dynamite Blast. What if you just want to like get some like more value at the start of the game? This card's a Leo DeLuca, right? And you now have 4 actions each turn. Like also just again, like what if you just need cards? What if you need money? What if you just like need anything? In level 0, this card is yours. It could be an asset, a permanent, it can't, or an event. It can't be a permanent asset, event. Can't be a skill though. That's the only one it can't be, which is a shame. But you know,
You can play, and I think that we have nothing like this in the game.
yes,
This is a totally new effect, and I think it is, as you say, quite powerful. But again, kind of thinking of the whole, you don't necessarily get locked into what your class's answer to any problem is, right? Now your problem can be solved by Dynamite Blast. You don't have to think of, well, I can't play that card because it's expensive, or I don't get it because I'm not a Guardian. Instead, I have to settle for, I don't know, Cunning Distraction or something, which is not exactly the same effect, but sort of solves a lot of enemies at the same time. You pick the thing that works this time. Whatever it is, whichever class it might be. That, to me, is super cool.
Yep. Yeah, no, even Cunning Distraction. Like, just having a Cunning Distraction that, like, this is just, it turns any skill test into anything, which
Anything.
it's like very powerful. Like that's, I was actually surprised when we did our recent video talking about it. Travis was kind of low on this card, and I, I think it's just like 5 experience to do anything. Like even just like the floor, 5 experience again. If I look at all in, people pay 5 experience for all in a lot of decks, right? And notably the people that can do this, like especially on the Mystic side, like it's very hard for you to fail a test and not get something out of this card. But
I think
yeah,
for some people it's just too much analysis paralysis, but I think
yes,
giving maybe this is a list video you all can do. It's just what are some easy choices? You mentioned Thorough Inquiry, Bank Job. Those are really easy. So at the very least, if you're playing this in paper and you want to, I mean, because you play the card, right? So you actually get to bring it into your discard pile for the
yeah,
rest
I
of the
believe
game.
so. I believe that is what I remember people talking about that when this card was first spoiled. It will go into your discard pile too.
Yeah. Okay. So that's even funnier with maybe some recursion you
I
could
have a
do.
question: Is Amanda a dreamer or is she just a miskatonic? Because she has dreams of a
Dreams of the Deep or
yeah.
something. Whispers from the Deep,
Yeah,
whatever it is.
I don't think she's a dreamer, but I have to quickly check.
Yeah. I guess it does sort of lead to rules questions about if it does go in your discard pile, then do you now own this card, right? Or
I
control it or whatever. Ah, all right, never
Nah,
mind.
she's not a dreamer. Thank God. I would have loved that. Yeah. All right. Let's go to my number 5. Let's go to my number 5. So mine is Where's the Party? And the party is always on Playing Board Games every Thursday when we release a new list video. So I actually had a hard time. I had an easier time with Hemlock Lynn at Game Changers. And I think for me, because of my personal definition, specialist cards were hard for me to view as a game changer. Because, like, a game changer for me personally, in my own definition, is like I need to be able to see it in a lot of places. Or it needs to be so impactful, like Cyclopean Hammer, that it trumps the XP cost and like the places that you can see it. So specialist cards are hard for me to call a game changer. While I agree Memories from Another Life literally changes the game, it doesn't hit like my personal definition of a game changer. So a lot of mine on the list you're going to see are 0 or like cap at 2. And Where's the Party is one that when I was looking through this, it had that impact for me. Because already I've played this card and it's now something that I'm like, I'm gonna bring this to every campaign because fishing out the victory enemy in a deck is ginormous, and then like being able to draw a bunch of cards is very good. I had an issue where I thought that Kicking the Hornet's Nest was going to be like a card that you just played forever, but then I realized an enemy coming into on your turn, you have to solve that enemy, right? That turn, because that enemy's engaged with you. Where's the Party says, you know what? You don't need to this turn. This guy's just here. It's going to be exhausted and engaged with you, and you can deal with it next turn. Or if you're ready, you can just kill it right now, which is really nice. And card draw and Rogue at level 0, I think we take for granted what the card draw is, because there's Lucky Cigarette Case, which is nice card draw, but that's like drip card draw over multiple turns at level 0. And a lot of people, I already know you're doing it right now. In your head, you're picturing Trish Scarborough. She has fantastic card draw, but that's because she also has the Seeker class, right? So this, or even like Winifred, that's built on her hitting. She's built different. She is literally built different. But like everyone else, just having this option to just like have some card draw in green, and you're going to be able to hit like 3 on this pretty commonly because you're going to want to dig out the enemy that has victory, which usually hit a bit harder. And this is a nice way to do this. I think this card can be a really good 2 of when you start, but upgrade into a 1 of as the game goes, and it'll still have an impact from scenario 1 to scenario 8.
Yeah, I feel like we've talked about this card before, so that all that sounded like something we've said before, and it's all true. And of course, for Alessandra on the art there,
Yes.
it's you even get 3 more actions after this one to deal with the enemy if you want, or just
Yep.
have it hang out with you.
Just have it hang out with you. Yeah. And I think that they actually did a really good job, if we get a little bit lost in the sauce, of carrying over the parlay in a subtle way into this one without just giving parlay cards. There's actually a lot of benefit to the archetype that goes beyond just cards with parlay, which I'm sure we're going to get to maybe later on your list. All right. Let's go to your next card, which is
Transfiguration. Okay, you heard what I said last time. Copy and paste.
Yeah.
This is kind of the same thing. An effect that we do not have in the game. Being able to switch out your investigator for another one is kind of nuts. The like actual power level of this card kind of aside, um, there's a lot of things now you get to think about when you're planning your deck. Am I planning for one investigator or am I kind of planning for another investigator? And how that works out is fun. And then just as the gameplay goes on, when do you do the switch? When do you want to become Daniela? When do you want to become Rex Murphy or something? And then yet again, it's a choose from your giant collection of investigators which is the right one for this particular scenario. For in many cases, I think people are going to play this as a I've got two investigators in mind. There's the one that's the mystic that can take this or off class mystic, and then there's the one I'm going to transfigure into every time. But how much fun would it be to have it be like memories from the last time where you just pick whatever makes sense this scenario? I think it's harder to pull off, but I think it just changes the nature of the game in that way.
Yeah, when I was putting your cards together for the slides, for the first two I put in Memories of Vanilla Life and Transfiguration, I was like, yeah, these literally do change the game of Arkham. So I thought they were very apt things for this. I love Transfiguration as a card design because it seems like such a treat for Johnny's and then also for Timmy's to be like, wow, this is such a cool effect, you know? But for like a Johnny to have that card that they look at that they're like, this, I can do so much with this, you know, like that's a really exciting card for the design. And I think that you're probably right, where the best version of this card is like treating it like a toolbox, right? Where this is probably best in like a flex sort of investigator, and then you can just like turn into what is needed in the moment for the party, which seems like a really cool play loop for this card.
Yeah, and we've seen it a few times already together on Patreon Game Day.
Yep. Yeah,
And
so far I've seen a Safina turn into a Rex and a Sister Mary turn into a Daniela, and the Daniela one was very impressive.
I thought the Safina into Rex was, I mean, it's Rex, right? But I think there was a loop of Read the Signs 2, which
Yeah.
was kind of crazy.
Yeah, the reason for me why the Safina one was less impressive because it had that Safina problem where if you don't hit into your mulligan, you're kind of just screwed, and that's kind of what happened.
Yeah.
It took them like a lot of turns to get there, but we got the Daniela one on turn 2. And then it was things like playing Taunt 3, engaging a bunch of enemies, like, you know, and then using a flamethrower. Like, it was pretty cool, and I like what it does. And I think the card has an inherent weakness, too, where if you build too much for the other investigator, but you don't see Transfiguration, it's like, uh-oh, you know? So I think it's a really cool card, and I think it is going to be a very impactful card for a lot of players in their collection.
And I do like that you mentioned kind of the play style. Not everyone's going to want to play with this. Some people are going to look at this and say, this isn't for me. And that's fine, right? I don't think it falls into the category of some cards that are you're losing something big by just saying, I don't want to play that card,
Yep.
right? Like an economy card or something where you're like, I don't care for that card. Well, okay, but this is sort of necessary for the class to do what it needs to do. This card is just, it's powerful, but I think it's just there for fun. It
Yes,
doesn't
agreed.
need to be in the game, but I'm sure glad it is.
Yep, yep, definitely. All right, my number 4 is the Book of War, Sun Tzu's Legacy. So, what this card does, that made it for a game changer for me, is that it's given Guardian a new archetype to explore. And while I personally am not super sold on the power level that I have seen people talking about for this card, I can't deny the impact that this card has on the collection in terms of what Guardians are capable of doing. This is an engine of itself. It's also a way for you to start as a Guardian to do something a little bit unfair, right? Recursion is a very powerful thing, and Guardians are like the class that don't really have recursion, right? Rogue and Seeker are kind of there in card draw. Mystics are there in their ability to recur spells, and Survivor, as we all know, are the recursion class. And Guardians have kind of just been like, where's my piece of this pie? And Sun Tzu's the Book of War is like the first instance of this being like on a card that I think is actually also just like pretty efficiently costed for what you get out of it. And then also, it opens up things where now, if you are able to start putting secrets on things as well, you can end this into a never-ending thing as well. So like Joe and Roland have another reason why they're off class, or in Joe's case, main class, can start doing some things that synergize with the Guardian class in a way that's beyond just, I have ability to flex because I have those things in my pool.
If you have off-class Mystic, you could do Enraptured too, and just keep throwing secrets on this thing. So I really like your point about like what does Guardian have for recursion, and it seems like on events especially, right? Rogue gets a set of events that says something like return to your
Yes.
hand if you succeed by 2 or 3 or something.
Yep. Yep.
And then Mystic gets this now on some events that is you draw a symbol. Seeker doesn't really need this, but for Guardian now it's like staple it to any event that you want. So I like that idea of it's not just these, it's not just your cheap shots and whatnot. It's anything. It could be
Yep.
your Dynamite Blast, it could be your Ever Vigilant, it could be whatever. And that sounds like fun and a real changer for what the class can do.
Yep. Yep. All right. Let's go to your number 3, which is...
Okay, Nautical Charts is a card that I've not played with, but I've seen a lot now, watching you or others play, I think, on your channel, and I think it's just nuts, right? This is a card where you get to discard cards from your hand to as deduction. So you only is once per round, right? So you exhaust it. If you succeed, you discard any card from your hand to discover additional clue. It's interesting correlate of Mariner's Compass, right? Which requires you to get rid of resources in order to get that extra clue once per round. But I think in a card game, it is a lot easier to hold on to cards that are just not useful this turn. That the best that they could possibly be is discover an additional clue. Turns out that's really good.
Yeah.
So I think this is a game changer for filling out that discard archetype in Survivor. To I mean, there's other cards in the set that do it too, and maybe this could just stand in for all the other stuff in this set that really makes discarding way less of a cost and more of an upside too. So it's not just that you should discard something like winging it that you want in the discard pile, but rather it's okay. Everything is now good enough to discard. I think we had Cornered before, which at 2 XP gave you a +2. I don't think that +2 in many circumstances is as good as one additional clue. That's what wins you the game, right? You might not need those +2s, and you can get that maybe in a different way.
Yeah. So I also have Nautical Charts here as my number 3. This is the one that
there we
we
go.
had in tandem with each other. And mine's a little bit cheesy, where it's also, this kind of represents the Survivor class for this cycle. I think that ultimately Survivor probably got the most support in this one because it finished off a lot of different archetypes that have just been like hanging out and vibing for a little bit.
Yeah, when I sent the list to you, I was like, should I put George just to represent the whole set?
Yeah, yeah.
And I just went with this anyway, but yeah.
Because like this card, I think like what this card does for me as a game changer is it makes it so that the discard archetype is now a thing that anybody can run. Because like realistically before this, you had Wendy Adams, and she didn't really do it that much. Like she could, but most of the time there were better things you could do with Wendy, right? Now you have a way with Wendy to also just like get more clues, having even more options to do so, which is really nice. There was Ashcan Pete, who was, I think, the one that played the most into the actual discard archetype because he had the thing to ready assets. And then there was Patrice, right? And Patrice is different, but she was also like the only one that you usually played cornered with, right? So she kind of came discard because, not because she had discard synergy, but because that was the best thing to do with her cards because she had a new hand every turn, right? But now you can play discard Min. We also got like Artistic Inspiration. You can play discard Daryl. You can play discard like I'm going to be doing a discard Silas that's going to be going really good. Yorick also now got a bunch of support as well because cards that he can discard, he can now have more ways to play them with his ability, like when he kills an enemy that turn. So like I think that the discard in itself is very impactful. For Nautical Charts specifically, I do think that turning any card in your hand into a deduction is a very nice thing to have on lock. But I think that this card is going to be at its peak when you're using it in discard synergy deck. So that's why it's kind of like a representation of all of that for what Drowned City is bringing to the Survivor class.
100%. Although Wilson doesn't get too many Survivor cards, I kind of wonder if this being a tool does something for him too. Maybe. I think
Maybe.
he's got card draw problems, but maybe Where's the Party, which he can take as well. Improvise.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe that helps. I
Yeah,
don't know.
also,
I mean,
he also has that specialist card, so like there's a chance. There's a chance. The True Awakening is a specialist card that just draws 2 cards. Yeah.
draws cards.
Yeah. All right. Let's go to your number 2, which is
Okay, this is Antikythera, or if you want to produce it more like the Greek pronunciation, is more like Antikythera. I've heard people talk about how to pronounce it. It's something like that. This card I've played, and it's nuts. I really think that's a strong card in general, but the reason it's on the list as a game changer is because it turns all kinds of different actions into benefits. So one of the best parts about Lucky Cigarette Case, especially level 3, in Rogue, is that you're just doing something else. You are investigating, you are fighting, you are invading. Whatever it is, you're getting some value out of whatever that skill test might be. This is that, but it's also some kind of maybe random thing benefit that you get. But my most impressive plays with this so far has been discovering clues when you weren't trying to discover clues. So, especially for investigators who can flex a little bit, you start doing things like pass a skill test on an evade or a fight, and you just randomly discover a clue. And now you don't need to spend another action to investigate. Maybe it's not enough clues to clear out locations every step of the way, but even if you are investigating, you might get that second or third clue, and you might not have expecting that. Compared to Chemistry Set, which I think is really nice, nice card, and you've shown some really good plays with it, but it's turning a active investigate action, right, into a reaction to any test you might take. So, power level aside, I think this is a game changer for the game because you're going to be getting value out of all kinds of other actions, and you suddenly wonder why you're finishing scenarios so much more quickly. It's because you were discovering clues stapled to other kinds of actions.
Yeah, I was going to ask, did you play this in your True Solo Joe deck? Because I imagine,
Yeah.
yeah, you fight something, you kill it, and suddenly you're like, whoa, I got the clue off of the location. I've gained an action this turn to do something else. That seems very good in solo.
I'm rolling somehow. It
Yeah,
sort of
no,
feels
yeah,
like
exactly, right? But I agree. I think this card, I was very excited to play with this card when I first read it. I think that this is like a great example of what a level 5 card should be. And as you have said, I'm a big... I scream from the hilltops about Chemistry Set. Like, the card is very good. And this is that on drugs. Because it's like you said, yeah, you're doing anything, right? 1 to 3 is, if it's during the Mythos phase, you've just played a free True Understanding. If you used it while killing an enemy, you're rolling banks, right? The 2 and 4 is just Father Mateo's Elder Sign, right? Like, you do that during a test and you've just played like Father Mateo's Elder Sign. The number 5, conveniently, is also Father Mateo's Elder Sign, right?
Yep.
So, like, these are all really powerful effects. And unlike Chemistry Set, which is, I think, good enough to just play in any deck, it's better when you build around it. I think the Antikythera is just good no matter what. Because you're going to succeed by exactly those numbers once a turn. So you're just going to get like value over the course of the game when you play it.
And if you succeed by 0, guess what? You don't exhaust this. You
Yep.
take another skill test, and then you'll actually succeed by 1 through 5.
Yep.
Yeah.
And-
And that's setting aside all the other synergy that lets you muck around with how much you succeed by, which is nice to fit into, but I think this is just a game changer for the Seeker's, accessory slot, which is not super contested. There's some good stuff there, but this is a 5 XP accessory slot that does more than I think any of those other cards do. So a good solution if you've got nothing else to put into your deck. Why not this?
Yeah. No, it's I think it's a very, very exciting card, and I think a definitely good game changer. This one's I like this one because you can look back at it and be like, yeah, card's good still when we look at this in a year. Yeah, it is. It's just a very good card. It's very
But I'm curious
powerful.
if people are going to play it outside of the archetype because it reads the precision succeed
Yep.
by exactly archetype. But to me, it's a game changer because it does that very well,
Yeah,
but
but
you
it's out.
don't
But it can
need
be
to do
played
it.
outside of it. Well, I can promise you, I will be. I'm probably going to be like putting. If I have 5 experience, I'm going to be like, yeah, I'm just going to put an Antikythera in here. Just why not? All right. My number 2 is Last Chance 3 from the Survivor class. Again, Survivor is very good. And I've been saying, I theorized when I was talking about this card recently that this card would be playable even if you were not playing a no hand size deck. And I saw that last week. I saw a George Barnaby deck that was a deck of my dreams playing Gift of Nodens. And it was insane. Gift of Nodens is as good as I thought. Last Chance, if you just play it as an Unexpected Courage to draw 2 cards, is very good, right? Like, it's just a very good effect. If you have any sort of recursion, it's also just even better. And as I said earlier, Survivor is the recursion class. It's funny that I think we said this afterwards. We might have even said it during the video when we recorded that one for your channel about the neutral skills. This is the Survivor upgraded version of one of those. And it's just as good as it reads. Like, this is very easy to get 3 icons out of, and then it's also going to be drawing you 2 cards, which is very, very impressive.
Yeah, so if you want it to be literally unexpected courage with 2 icons, you can have 4 cards in your hand,
Yep.
right? That's not that unusual, right? I mean, you don't have to be playing no hands like you're saying, no cards in hand for it to be as good as just 2 icons draw 2. For 3 XP, that's worth it, and it will often be better.
Yeah. And there were there will be times, I promise you right now, viewers at home, I'm gonna play this card when I have 5 cards in my hand and I just want to draw 2. Like, I'm just gonna treat it as just a way to get through my deck quicker. Like, I feel like Last Chance 0, I think, is actually a good skill card that a lot of survivors don't play just because, it's a little bit unreliable, right? And I think that Last Chance 3, a lot of people, when they first read it, are going to get caught up and be like, oh, it's the same thing. I see those 6 icons. I want to get those 6 icons. No. The power of this card is just that it's going to replace itself and get you through your deck quicker, and then you can just, like, resourceful back. Like, with Silas, this is going to be nuts. Like, it's one of those things where I actually could, in the long term, get rid of Unrelenting with the Silas decks as well to have a little bit of variety, or just play both. Why not?
So for Silas, I guess that's why it says while Last Chance is committed to it, right?
Yeah.
So you can't pull it back.
Which is very good. Yes, no, it's one of those things that for that, like, I feel like even though it's a shame that Silas hasn't got, like, those toys to play with, it's much better for the health of the game that Silas can't do those things. Yeah, because that it's just Unrelenting is a little bit nutty with him, but he's in the art, so it's allowed to be. It's allowed to be.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's released in his box anyway, right? What else? What else could we do with that card?
Yes.
Play it in
Yeah.
Amanda?
Probably. I play it in Min too. I mean, I like any skill that draws 2 cards.
Yep.
Yep. All right. Let's go to your last one on the list here, which is
Bring Along. This card, again, fits with my theme of it changes the way that you are actually playing the game, less so on the deck building and more so on the how do I actually go turn by turn. And the nice part about this card is that, yes, it gives you +1 skill value, and it gives you the card draw, which is kind of a neat side grade to what pickpocketing does. But the benefit really is do not disengage from that enemy. That's why you're playing the card. You are playing this because you want an enemy at your location every round to farm for clues, for like Trish or Lucius. And then maybe other stuff. I don't know. Like Alessandra wants the enemy around, and not having to re-engage and drag makes it a lot easier to play those kinds of decks. So to me, this is a game changer just because that kind of thing is viable now. It always was, but it's much more easy to pull off, I think, a combo when you know the enemy will just always be with you. There's a bit of a downside, costs 3 resources. The alert thing maybe could happen every now and then, but huge benefit every step of the way. And kind of like pickpocketing, you get to combo this with other cards, right? It's not just an
Hmm.
evasion on this card like disguise is, but rather you want to use your disguise with string along. Great, you can do that.
Yep. Yeah, no, this is to me just the perfect example of how Rogue is the combo class, right? Because it's a high value card, but it gets better, better, and better with the more things you do with it, or how you can build around it in the ways that Rogues can. I think this is a great choice for the game changer list. I wish it was a trick though. I'm looking at it now. I feel
For
like
Rita,
this should be a trick for Rita, but also just because like you're literally string along to me is a very trickful, deceitful type of thing. So
I like the. I mean, not every card in this game has a lot of flavor in it, but this one
yeah,
has a ton of flavor.
yeah,
Right?
yeah,
It does exactly what you expect the title is.
yeah, 100%. Yeah, sweet. All right, let's go to my number one, which, if you know anything about me, should be pretty easy. It's Enraptured 2. I think this is probably the strongest card in the set. It's insane how like pushed this card is for a 2 experience card. I have long played Enraptured 0 because I thought the card was very good. It's not something you put into any deck because there's like those, you need to be doing an investigation, and you might think that like the same thing is true for Enraptured too. And while it is, the effect is so good that this is one of those things that if I'm the fighter mystic and I want to refill my spells, I'm gonna bring this and use this on my teammates' investigation actions. It's that good, right?
Hmm.
Because it's kind of like the brute force sharp vision, where the impact on those cards is so powerful that you're gonna see Min bringing brute force just for like Tony to punch something, or like anyone to punch something. And I think that Enraptured is gonna get there. And this is not even talking about the ability to recur these cards in the form of Practice Makes Perfect or Astronomical Atlas, which I'm very excited about because I've long said that I want more skill support in Mystic, and powerful skills like this give a reason to play Astronomical Atlas beyond just value engine, right? Because that's kind of where Astronomical Atlas is. Now you're going to like, with before you'd be like, I don't care what I'm going to get on this, I just want to get plus skill value. But now you're like, I'm going to find a way to make sure I'm getting 2 Enraptureds out of my Astronomical Atlas each time I see my Enraptureds, right? And that's a very exciting thing. And then also refilling charges and our secrets on anything at your location is also a very powerful effect. This is a very pushed card, and I think it's going to be, in the long term, the most impactful card out of Drowned City for sure.
Yeah, I think I've talked about this card for a while now after having seen it. And yeah, throughout all of the recursion stuff, it's a game changer because what was it like to refill charges on cards before now? It was hard, right? You had things like Winds of Power that you could play for an action, but a couple of resources. Had to draw it on your turn to save the action. Um, there's Recharge, the level 2 and the level 4, and they're kind of bad,
Mm-hmm.
right? People didn't really play them. And then we started to get a little bit more ways to do this with Uncage the Soul 3.
Yeah.
But even so, that was kind of contingent upon assets that you may want to replay for whatever reason. And it's a level 3 card too. Um, but suddenly with this card, and maybe even correlate all its contents in the set as well, there's ways to put a lot of charges and or secrets on things quickly. And the power level of those cards goes up because now they're less charge or secret use limited, basically,
Mm-hmm.
and that's crazy. So imagine kind of the spells that came out in this set. They come in with a lot of charges already, so it feels kind of necessary to have something like this card to refill them. You get 9 charges, but each charge does something somewhat minimal.
Mm-hmm.
But look back at all the other cards that require you to have a secret or a charge on them. They do a lot. A single Rite of Seeking level 4, right? That's 3 clues. That suddenly you've got what, 9 clues out of this one Enraptured card if you can manage to spend those charges off of the Rite of Seeking.
Yep.
That's crazy. That's crazy for something that doesn't take up an action. And there's no downside, unlike the recharge cards, which could randomly only give you one charge or discard the card entirely.
Yeah, yeah. And then there's also one of those things where it seems so simple, but just turning this into a wild icon, not just a book, means that now exactly what you said. If you use it during, like, for example, let's just say a rite of seeking, you can now use it during this to refill that rite of seeking, which is a very notable change compared to level 0 Enraptured.
And I used to use level 0 Enraptured too, just like you. I like to throw it on to close the circle and figure I got one action back, and that was great. This.
Yeah. Yeah. And then,
Ooh.
not to mention, as we have to mention each time, Amanda Sharp just got. I think that this is something that I've talked about previously as well. I feel like they internally, when they were designing Drowned City, knew that the current and legacy change was coming, because I do think that they kind of threw in Rapture to be like, we don't care about Practice Makes Perfect or Amanda Sharp. Like, you can do great things with those cards, but, like, we're not talking about that in terms of this design, which I think ultimately is more exciting, right? Because there's been a lot of people who say that Drowned City is lower power level, and I agree, it is lower power level, but we've seen that the impact of what these higher power level cards can do, and then maybe we're going to see in the long term they care less about that, because they're like, we're not going to worry about what this card can do with Amanda Sharp. If someone wants to do Cryptic Grimoire, the thing that we did in our curse run on your channel, like, it would be insane, and they're just like, have fun, do that, right? I think it's an exciting change.
But more to the point of looking forward, the designers are signaling with this card that they don't want you to be limited by charges to you or secrets to use your cards.
Mm-hmm.
They don't view that in the same way that maybe the previous design team did, or those original cards were designed, because maybe those cards aren't out there anymore. Maybe those just don't exist. So it's okay to print something like this because the new cards with charges and or secrets are going to be more plentiful, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they want you to be able to use those effects. So it does feel like this makes more sense with this set, and maybe throwing out some of the earlier cards that would abuse this effect more.
Yeah.
Or the single charge would be more effective, right? It's kind of the same difference between when we looked at Brand of Cthulhu, right, when it came out, and it's like there's a lot of charges here, but each one is one damage, right? So
Yeah.
it kind of was balanced for shriveling because you're getting the damage in different chunks, right? But it's all sort of still on the same card. Now we probably are getting a different design philosophy about what each charge or secret means. So
Yep.
I'm all for it, but
Yep.
it makes more sense looking at it that way.
Yeah, for sure. All right, and that is the list. Let us know down in the comments what some of your game changers from Drowned City are. But in the meantime, get ready, because there's going to be more Drowned City content coming. And thanks for watching, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this. Remember to check out Daniel's channel, Quick Learn. You can find a link down in the video description. But in the meantime, thanks for watching, everybody. Huge thank you to all of our patrons for supporting the channel, and huge thank you to all of you for watching at home. I hope you enjoyed this one. We will see you all in the near future, and remember, the best time is every Thursday on Playing Board Games, because we got a new list video for you, like clockwork, until the end of time, or until I fade to dust, which might be next week. Who knows? Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a good one, as always. A GG's.